Elemental may be one of the most adorable Pixar movies I've ever seen, so let's talk about this movie. As always, this video will have spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, head over to my shorts or my TikTok and check out my one-take movie review on this movie. But without further ado, let's talk about the movie Elemental. So essentially, this is Pixar's first rom-com, and if I do say so myself, it turned out great. The animation was good, this movie was vibrant, and the story was probably even better. But the glue that held this movie together and gave it a lot of its charm was the relationship between our two main characters. And to be honest, I didn't think I would care about this relationship as much as I did, and this movie turned out a lot better than I thought it would, so let's get into what this movie is about. So in this movie, we go to Element City and we meet a fire element named Ember. But when Ember meets Wade, who is a water element, they work together to save her dad's shop and also try to stay together in a world that wants them apart. Starting things off with the good, I have the story. And the story in this movie really just reminded me of that magic of Pixar. Yes, this story was fun, it was charming, it's all the things a Pixar story usually is, but this movie was truly about an immigrant family trying to find their way in a new society that doesn't necessarily accept them, and I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. There were a lot of deeper themes in this movie as well, like discrimination, racism, and stereotyping. I mean, really the whole nine. And I think they really did a good job with these themes, as they used these themes to really push the story further and go deeper into all of our characters, which I thought was just really awesome. The relationship between Ember and her dad was a big part of this movie as well, and it was really cool to see that relationship kind of evolve throughout this movie as Ember slowly figured out who she truly wanted to be. I also really like what they did with her anger in this movie, and that her anger stems from not wanting to take over the shop from her dad. And I loved how every time this topic was brought up in this movie, she essentially just overboiled and just exploded, quite literally. And I just thought that was really cool, because when this topic wasn't being brought up and she wasn't worrying about taking over the shop with her dad and she was doing the things that she wanted to do, she was completely happy, no anger in sight. And I just thought that was a really cool detail in this movie. But with all that said, I think the heart and charm of this movie, the thing that really holds it all together, is the relationship between Ember and Wade. And that is my next good thing about this movie, because this relationship is probably the best thing about this entire film. It's your typical rom-com relationship, but man, it was handled so well. Both of the voice actors who played Ember and Wade have great chemistry. I assume they shot their lines in a booth together, but this movie did a great job at making you care about this relationship that had plenty of heartwarming moments and some heart-wrenching moments as well. And as I said before, I did not expect to care about this relationship as much as I did when I was watching this movie in the theater. And I'm not gonna lie, that ending scene where Wade died and Ember sang that song that he sang earlier in the movie, and it kind of made him cry a little bit, that scene, I'm gonna be honest, hit me a little harder than I thought it would. And I do have to touch on the character of Wade, because he was just a lovable character throughout this movie. I mean, he was one of those characters that in the beginning you weren't so sure on him, but then as the movie went on, you just kind of grew to love this character. I mean, he was awesome. He was funny, he was dorky, quirky. I mean, he was just a great character to watch on screen, and he was one of the more entertaining parts of this movie. And next up for the good is the animation, and this animation was a little different from what Pixar usually does, but I think it complemented the characters really well. It was really cool to see how all these different elements interacted with their environment and each other. I mean, at one point in this movie, we had water elements do an actual wave, which was pretty funny to see. And then we even had a baby fire element drinking lighter fluid, I think it was, and then burped out fire, which was really funny to see as well. But I think the animation really added to the humor and charm of this movie, and overall this world that Pixar created was very vibrant. It had lots of colors, the characters were animated beautifully, they interacted with their environment in very creative and cool ways, and this movie just kind of reminds us all that Pixar is still at the top of their game, and they're one of the best to do it when it comes to animation. And finally, for the good is the humor. Now, the humor in this movie had its fair share of element puns, and that was definitely expected. It gave this humor just a little bit of charm, but this is the type of humor that necessarily isn't laugh out loud funny, but it does make you chuckle about it when the jokes are made on screen. Now let's get into the so-so, and I really only have one thing here, and that is that this is a pretty cliche rom-com. It follows all the story beats of every other rom-com pretty much out there. I mean, we have two people meet who aren't supposed to work together, but they do, and they end up having a great time. Then something happens and they split apart just to come back together at the very end, and then everything is very good. But at the end of the day, I do think Pixar handled this very, very well, but I do have this in the so-so just because it does make this movie a little bit predictable. But at the end of the day, this movie is a kid's movie, so I'm not gonna look that much into this, but I thought I would bring it up just to say, hey, this movie, as good as it is, and I think this is a phenomenal Pixar movie, it is pretty predictable. And finally, let's get into the bad. And this is something that didn't really happen till the end of the movie, and honestly, I thought it was kind of funny, but the dialogue did get a little soap opera-y there at the end. More specifically, it was that scene where Wade professed his love to Ember when she was about to take over her dad's shop, and that whole scene was just really dramatic. The dialogue was it was really funny. I mean, Wade comes in, he's like, "I love you, Ember, I love you, Ember," and then as any rom-com does, just to, you know, add a little drama, Ember's like, "I don't love you, Wade, you don't love me. Get out of here, Wade, get out of here." I just thought that whole scene was kind of funny, even though the ending of this movie was great. But at the end of the day, it was nothing terrible. I just thought I'd bring it up because it's something I definitely did notice when I was watching in the theaters, and it kind of made me cringe a little bit, but this is a kid's movie, so as I said before, I'm not gonna look too much into that. I just thought I would bring it up. But overall, Elemental is a great Pixar movie. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. The story had charm and a classic deeper message that Pixar always likes to throw into their films. The animation was vibrant, and the relationship between Ember and Wade was the heart of this movie, and I think everyone who sees this movie will get enjoyment out of it. Those are my thoughts on Elemental. Be sure to let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, get your Eazy Apparel at shop easyapparel.com. God bless, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.